I think we're good to go.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
I don't think she's streaming.
Yeah, still recording. You sure we're live streaming, Sarah?
Yes, I haven't started the recording yet, but I've done the live streaming. Just a second.
Okay.
There should be a symbol on the screen, but there's no symbol.
Yeah, Sarah's doing that now. Okay, welcome everybody. I believe this is number, will be about 235, I think, in our weekly interfaith meetings. And I'll just run through a few welcome slides. So
I think still we're not streaming to the YouTube. It's a storing, but not streaming to YouTube. Should be a broadcast.
I can see YouTube, a thing up the top.
You can?
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. I think we're probably okay. So the idea is that we're contributing to build a better world just by understanding each other a bit better. If you haven't already, please identify yourself with your name. And there's a reaction button, a raise hand button later on when we have discussion that helps us with a logical order of asking questions or making comments. Otherwise, it's good to be muted so the background noise doesn't come in. And we adopted a couple of these principles from a Catholic professor of interreligious and interfaith dialogue, Dr. Leonard Swidler, and that is the primary purpose is to learn, and we come to learn from each other. And the founder or co-founder of this group, Siva, who's passed on recently, but he particularly found this quote helpful. And that is, whether through deeds or words, the merit of your every contribution to social well-being lies first in your resolute commitment to discover that precious point of unity, where contrasting perspectives overlap and around which contending peoples can coalesce, which is a little bit opposite of what we're used to, where we start with differences and try to resolve them. This is find a point of unity to start with. And tonight's topic will be on inspirational saints, and the readings are on human rights, which seems very relevant at this time because there are a lot of people suffering because the world can't organize itself to look after everybody. So in a moment, I'll ask Tracy if you'd be happy to honour the Indigenous people in the land. Then we'll have one piece of music, 7 readings, closing music, and then we'll proceed with the program. Over to you, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to give our acknowledgement and respect to the First Nations people of this country. I'm on Worimi country, which I'm very grateful to be living on their country, and they have wonderful dreaming stories about how they were allowed by the Creator to become humans because they were considerate. When they were enjoying their hunting of the dolphins, of the fish, that they were considerate and was thinking about the consequences of their action, and therefore they were allowed to become human. So in dreaming stories, so much is using an animal and physical features of the land to associate the moral lesson with those animals and the land or sky pointers. But it's all about being a better human being, is about thinking about the consequences of your actions, and not only for the present time, but for the future. So that's an example of the many dreaming stories of this nation and the many ways that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listen to the Creator instructing them to look after the land, the waters, the sky, and each other, and visitors, which is why we weren't slaughtered, we were accepted. And even though there's been difficulty, painful consequences for many, that they are still gracious in trying to teach us how to be better human beings. So I'm very grateful for that. And I know across where you live, wherever you are, this is Aboriginal land. They were custodians entrusted by the Almighty Creator. It may have different names, to be good custodians, which they have been. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Let us have concord with our own people and concord with people who are strangers to us. Create between us and the strangers a unity of hearts. May we unite in our midst, unite in our purposes, and not fight against the divine spirit within us. Let not the battle cry rise amidst many slain, nor the arrows of the war god fall with the break of day. Hindu writings, Athara Vida.
This I ask, this I ask thee, let me truly, O Ahura, the religion that is best for all mankind, the religion based on truth, which should prosper all that is mine, the religion which establishes our actions in order and justice by the divine songs of perfect piety, which has for its intelligent desire of desires the desire for thee, O Ahura Mazda. Zoroastrian writings, Yasna.
Having abandoned the destruction of life, the recluse Gautama abstains from the destruction of life. He has laid aside the rod and the sword and dwells conscious, full of kindness, compassionate for the welfare of all living beings. Hindu writings.
Listen to what the Lord say. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require for you? To work justly and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Jewish writing, Micah 6.
Come, you who are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Christian writings. Sorry, I can't read the exact verse. There's something in the way.
It's just me. So in the Islamic writings, it is possible to read, mankind was but one people, and God sent prophets to announce glad tidings and to warn. And he sent down with them the book of truth, that it might decide the disputes of men. And God guided those who believed. He guided them to the truth of that about which, by his permission, they had disputed. For God guideth whom he pleaseth into the straight path.
The divine religions must be the cause of oneness among men and the means of unity and love. They must promulgate universal peace, free man from every prejudice, bestow joy and gladness, exercise kindness to all men, and do away with every differences and distinction. Just as Baha'u'llah, addressing the world of humanity, saith, O people, ye are the fruits of one tree and the leaves of one branch. At most it is this, that some souls are ignorant, they must be educated. Some are sick, they must be healed. Some are still of tender age, they must be helped to attain maturity, and the utmost kindness must be shown to them.
There comes a time when we heed a certain call, when the world must come together as one.
There are people dying, and it's time to lend a hand
to life, the greatest gift of all. Now we can't go on pretending day by day that someone somewhere will soon make a change. We are all a part of God's great big family, and the truth, you know, love is all we need. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving. There's a choice we're making, we're saving our own lives. It's true, we'll make a better day, just you and me. Oh, send them your hearts, so they know that someone cares, and the lives will be stronger and free, as God has shown us by turning stone to bread. And so we all must lend a helping hand. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving. There's a choice we're making, we're saving our own lives. It's true, we'll make a better day, just you and me. When you're down and out and there seems no hope at all,
but if you just believe, there's nowhere we can fall.
well, let us realize that a change can only come when we stand together as one. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a better day, so let's start giving. There's a choice we're making, we're saving our own lives. It's true, we'll make a better day, just you and me. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving. There's a choice we're making, we're saving our own lives. It's true, we'll make a better day, just you and me.
Thank you very much to the readers. And so tonight's topic is inspirational saints. And in a moment, I'll put on a 15-minute video. Now, normally video doesn't work well with Zoom because the frame rate is too slow. But so I selected this video, even though the person narrating doesn't sound enthusiastic to me, but the frame rate should display quite well. I think it'll be fine. And Jung and I, thanks to Beverly, we've been learning about the first saint who's mentioned on the video, Saint Faustina of Poland. And Beverly gave us this book, her diary. And and I'm enjoying it. I haven't finished it, probably because it's 700 pages. But anyway, it's I've enjoyed the beginning of it, and Jung has also been learning about Saint Faustina, and I'm hoping, Beverly, if it's all right, if you, after the video, maybe you could just say a few words, fill us in on the life, whatever's missing from the video.
I'll try a little bit, yeah.
Wonderful.
I've read the diary, of course, but yeah.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to share now. And share sound is on. Yeah, I've got to find the link. Hang on. Okay, I think this is it.
Ten female saints with the greatest impact in the Catholic world. 1. Saint Faustina. Honored as the Apostle of the Divine Mercy, Saint Faustina first felt a religious calling at the age of 7 when she attended the presentation of the infant Jesus. In 1924, she had her first vision of God while attending a dance with her sister Natalia, during which Jesus instructed Faustina to go to Warsaw immediately and join a convent. She packed her belongings and left the next morning, but she was repeatedly rejected in interviews due to her appearance and poverty. Eventually, Saint Faustina was accepted by the Mother Superior of the Congregation of the Sisters of Our Lady of Mercy under the condition that she pay for her living expenses. She worked as a housekeeper to save money to contribute to the convent. Her extensive diary has been read by countless believers worldwide. It has been translated into more than 20 languages. The diary's content reveals specific locations and the visions and messages Saint Faustina received from Jesus about the Divine Mercy. In the years 1965-1967, an investigation into her life and heroic virtues was conducted in Krakow. In 1968, the beatification process began in Rome, concluding in December 1992. On April 18, 1993, Pope John Paul II raised Saint Faustina to the rank of sainthood. She was canonized on April 30, 2000. Her relics now rest at the Shrine of Divine Mercy in Krakow Laguniki. 2. Saint Joan of Arc. Saint Joan of Arc is a legendary French saint who led her nation to victory in the 100 Years' War. She sparked controversy by claiming to receive visions from the Archangel Michael, Saint Margaret of Antioch, and Saint Catherine of Alexandria. She led the French army against the English, helping to recapture the cities of Orleans and Troyes. This ultimately led to the coronation of Charles VII in Reims in 1429. After a period of success, she was captured, sold to the English, tried for heresy, and sentenced to be burned at the stake. Known as the Maid of Orleans, Joan was offered the chance to recant her beliefs and avoid her sentence, but she refused. In 143-1, she was burned at the stake in Rouen, and her ashes were scattered in the River Seine. A second trial by the Church 25 years later nullified her previous sentence under political pressure. Saint Joan of Arc was beatified in 1909 and canonized in 1920. She stands as a shining star in the history of France and England, transcending the narratives of saints in the Catholic Church and touching our collective consciousness. Women admire her, and men admire her bravery. 3. Saint Teresa of Calcutta. As a modern-day saint, Saint Teresa of Calcutta, also known as Mother Teresa, accomplished remarkable deeds, over more than 45 years. Her religious order consisted of nearly 5,000 sisters from around the world, who cared for the dying suffering from various illnesses, as well as operated soup kitchens, mobile clinics, counseling programs, orphanages, and schools. While still a young Loreto nun, Saint Teresa received a message from God about establishing the missionaries of charity to serve the poorest of the poor. After gaining Indian citizenship, she underwent basic medical training to prepare for work in the slums. In 1994, she met Hillary Clinton, and together, they established a center in Washington, D.C., to care for orphan children. In 1995, they founded the Mother Teresa Home for Infant Children. Starting with several awards, including the Padma Shri from India in 1962, Saint Teresa's work was notably recognized with the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979. On September 5, 1997, Saint Teresa of Calcutta passed away, and the Indian government held a state funeral for her, with her remains interred at the Missionaries of Charity. Less than 2 years after her death, due to her widespread reputation for holiness, on December 20, 2002, Pope John Paul II approved the decrees on her heroic virtues and miracles. Pope Francis canonized her as a saint in Rome on September 4, 2016. 4. Saint Catherine Drexel. Despite growing up in wealth, Saint Catherine Drexel always witnessed her stepmother's daily charitable work, which included distributing food, clothing, providing financial assistance for rent to those in need, and aiding the poor. During a trip to Europe, she met Pope Leo XIII and asked him to send more missionaries to Wyoming for her family's acquaintance, Bishop James O'Connor. The Pope's response was, "Why don't you become a missionary yourself?" This answer made Catherine ponder. After 3.5 years, Saint Catherine, along with her first group of nuns, opened a boarding school in Santa Fe. By 1942, she had established a network of Catholic schools for African Americans in 13 states, along with 40 mission centers and 23 rural schools. The two saints met when Saint Catherine sought advice from Saint Cabrini regarding the approval of her order's rule in Rome. One of her notable achievements was the founding of Xavier University in New Orleans, the first Catholic university in the United States for African Americans. At the age of 77, Saint Catherine Drexel suffered a heart attack, forcing her into retirement. It seemed that her life had come to an end. However, for nearly 20 years, she quietly and fervently prayed from a small room overlooking the Vatican. Her small notebooks and pieces of paper recorded numerous prayers, unceasing aspirations, and her meditations. She passed away at the age of 96 and was canonized in the year 2000. 5. Saint Rose of Lima. Saint Rose of Lima had a childhood desire to become a nun. From an early age, she achieved this aspiration through regular prayer, fasting, and performing acts of penance in secret. She was given the name Rose because of her absolute beauty, but when those who requested it, she chose to disfigure her face to prevent them. When she was allowed to enter the Dominican order, it was said that Saint Rose continued a life of austerity, extreme abstinence, even inflicting self-punishment as an act of self-imposed penance. She was also known for wearing a heavy silver crown adorned with spikes. At one point, it became so firmly attached to her head that removing the crown became extremely difficult. Saint Rose of Lima passed away on August 25, 1617, a date that many believe she accurately predicted. She was beatified by Pope Clement IX on May 10, 1667, and canonized a saint on April 12, 1671, by Pope Clement X. 6. Saint Kateri Tekakwitha. Born into the Algonquin Mohawk tribe, Saint Kateri Tekakwitha's mother was an Algonquin Christian who was captured by the Iroquois and married to the chief of the Mohawk tribe. When she was just 4 years old, Saint Kateri lost her parents and younger brother in a smallpox outbreak, which left her disfigured and partially blind. She was then adopted by an uncle, who was the successor chief to her father. Saint Kateri grew up in a devout environment under the guidance of a priest and an older Iroquois woman. Due to her smallpox scars from childhood, her face bore disfiguring marks. Choosing to embrace the Catholic faith, Saint Kateri made the decision not to marry and instead took a perpetual vow of virginity. She found a secluded place in the woods where she could pray for an hour each day, but was accused of having met a man there. Saint Kateri Tekakwitha passed away at the age of 24, likely due to pneumonia. Witnesses reported that her once scarred face changed in color, the marks disappeared, and she appeared healthy. She was beatified in 1980 and canonized as a saint in 2012. 7. Saints Felicity and Perpetua. They lived during the early period of Christian persecution in Africa under the Roman Emperor Severus. Perpetua, a young noblewoman, was nursing her infant daughter, while Felicity was her servant. This pair is among the earliest Christian martyrs in Rome, honored together for their heroic stand in the face of persecution. Despite threats of torture and death, Perpetua, Felicity, along with 3 companions, Revocatus, Secundulus, and Saturninus, refused to renounce their Catholic faith. For their steadfastness, they were sent to their execution. Felicity gave birth to a daughter just a few days before their martyrdom began. They were thrown into the arena and attacked by wild beasts, but ultimately, Saints Felicity and Perpetua were executed by the sword. Remarkably, some people view them as early Christian martyrs who shared a special bond, as it is said that they comforted each other in prison and exchanged a kiss of peace in the arena. Today, Saints Felicity and Perpetua are remembered in many churches and cathedrals. 8. Saint Elizabeth of Hungary. Born into the royal family of King Andrew II and Gertrude of Morania, Saint Elizabeth used her wealth to promote charitable works. At the age of 14, she married Louis of Thuringia, whom she deeply loved, and gave birth to 3 children. Under the holy guidance of a Franciscan friar, she lived a life of prayer, sacrifice, and service to the poor and sick. To better identify with the poor, Saint Elizabeth dressed plainly and daily distributed bread to hundreds of people. After 6 years of marriage, her husband died during the Crusades, leaving Elizabeth grief-stricken. Her husband's family saw her as squandering the royal treasury and mistreated her, eventually expelling her from the palace. Elizabeth's return to favor came when her husband's fellow crusaders brought her son, the legitimate heir to the throne, back to power. In 1228, Saint Elizabeth of Hungary joined the Third Order of Saint Francis, and spent the remaining years of her life caring for the poor in a hospital she founded in honor of Saint Francis of Assisi. Her health deteriorated, and she passed away just before her 24th birthday in 1231. In her short life, Saint Elizabeth of Hungary demonstrated profound love and compassion for the poor and suffering. She became a patroness of Catholic charities and the Third Order of Saint Francis. She chose a life of penance and austerity, even when a life of comfort and luxury was readily available to her. This choice endeared her to the hearts of ordinary people across Europe. Her fame led to her canonization just 4 years after her death. 9. Saint Catherine of Siena. Saint Catherine of Siena was the 23rd child of Jacopo and Lapa Benincasa, growing up as an intelligent, cheerful, and devout individual. However, she once disappointed her mother by cutting off her hair in protest of the excessive focus on improving her appearance to attract a husband. Entering the Dominican order at the age of 18, Saint Catherine lived in seclusion for 3 years, devoting herself to prayer and penance. She tirelessly worked for the crusade against the Turks, advocated for peace between Florence and the Pope, and played a role in restoring the papacy to Rome. As a doctor of the Church, Saint Catherine used her gifts in philosophy and theology to promote peace among the Italian territories. She also founded a monastery for women outside Siena in 1377. During her lifetime, Saint Catherine wrote over 400 letters that had a significant influence. They were so impactful that she was later declared a doctor of the Church. She is highly regarded among mystics and spiritual authors in the Catholic Church. In 1939, Saint Catherine of Siena, along with Saint Francis of Assisi, was declared the co-patroness of Italy. In 1999, Pope John Paul II honored her as the patron saint of Europe. 10. Saint Bernadette Soubirous. Living in impoverished and uneducated circumstances, Saint Bernadette Soubirous claimed to have seen apparitions of the Virgin Mary. While some in the town believed her, others thought Bernadette was suffering from hysteria. After being interviewed by both the French government and church authorities, it was determined that her visions were indeed authentic. Bernadette is also known for performing a miracle by creating a spring of clean water in the town, which was reported to have healed approximately 69 people. The source of this water underwent rigorous scientific and medical investigations, but could not provide any explanation for the healings. The Lourdes Medical Bureau conducted analyses and could only identify that the water contained high mineral content. She requested that a shrine be built at the location where she received her visions, and the sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes has since become one of the major Catholic pilgrimage sites worldwide, featuring numerous chapels and churches surrounding it. Saint Bernadette Soubirous passed away on April 16, 1879, at the age of 35. She was canonized in 1925 by Pope Pius X.
This isn't going to be a very long video.
Hey, thank you very much, and welcome, Toa. Well, I hadn't seen that video before, and I feel grateful that I've seen it. I'm sure there's better videos and movies about saints, but I got a flavour of a sense, a little bit of sense of each one, and I think it's a good thing that the Catholic Church goes to the trouble of recognizing people who have become sanctified and good examples. But I'm just wondering, Beverly, can you tell us something? We don't know much about Saint Faustina. That was the first one, and anything else you can share with us?
All right. Well, I think that was an AI voice actually. So, you know,
yeah,
the voice couldn't read the years, and some of the pronunciations were weird. But I think that type of voice is AI voice. But nonetheless, that was a good example of some of the saints, and I think was a Catholic a saint. I know that sometimes Protestants criticize the Catholics because they think we adore the saints. We do not adore the saints, of course. We can only adore God. We venerate the saints, and that is to look up to them. So they've lived a wonderful life. Oftentimes, many of the saints were some of the worst sinners. One of the very first we can think of is Paul, Saint Paul from the Bible. But we look up to them. So they've run the race and they've reached the end, and so we look up to them as one would, maybe an older brother or sister, and someone as a model. Someone that we look up to, and we'd like to not just be like them, but we like them. We like to appeal to them to pray for us so that they can help us make it to the end, run the good race, and still be faithful, have the faith at the end. So that's what a saint is. So about Faustina, Faustina Kowalska, she was Polish. And an interesting thing about that is that in the diary, she prophesied about Pope John Paul II. Now, I don't know if any of you are aware of who he was. I think he was a pretty well-known figure, loved by the media, loved by young people. He was Polish as well. And most popes have been Italian. Very few haven't been Italian. So Faustina said in her diary, she prophesied about a pope coming from afar. And it was understood later that this was reference to John Paul II. Karol Wojtyła was his name. Another interesting thing about the Pope and Faustina is that when the Pope was shot and nearly died, Pope John Paul II, when he was shot and nearly died, he was in hospital for, I don't remember, maybe a couple of months at least. During that time, the diary came to mind to him. He was aware of it because he was Polish. The diary came to mind and he read it again and he recognized himself that he was that Pope. So having read it again, he realized the importance of the message coming from Jesus, Jesus appearing to Faustina, and it was the message about divine mercy, which basically is trust God, right? Trust God. It's about putting down all of your worries and your hopes and your fears and putting them at the feet of Jesus and offering them up to him and letting him do what you can't humanly do. You know, we do our part too. We try to do our best, obviously, but we just can't do beyond a certain point. We just, you know, we worry too much about things. And what can we do about certain things? You know, what can we do about things that we can't do anything about except pray? Well, that's when we offer it up to God. So we put it, we trust God. That is the big message of the divine mercy. Jesus's message to Faustina is trusting God. That is the main message. Trust God. Jesus, I trust in you is the phrase that is written under the divine mercy images, and the images of Jesus with his arms outstretched and white rays coming from one hand and red rays coming from the other hand, which represent the blood and the water, or the water and the blood that gushed forth from the heart of Jesus when he was pierced on the cross after he died. So it's the message of trust in God. And you know that when we pray, we don't, every prayer it's said in the Bible, every prayer is answered. Nothing goes up to God and that isn't answered, but it's not necessarily going to be answered the way we want it to be answered. You know, like we think of young children who might be asking their parents for something and they can't have it and they don't understand why, but mum and dad understand that, no, you can't have that. It's just not good for you. It's the same thing. Trusting that God hears us, responds to us, loves us, knows what we need, and prayers are answered, but maybe not in the way we, you know, not in the way we want. But our prayers don't go, they don't disappear into nothing. It's not a void. We are speaking to God. God does exist. And it's that trust, basically. Trusting, despite maybe our prayers aren't answered the way we want, but it's where trust has to come in, and hope, thinking, well, God is there. He is my Father. He does hear me and he does want my best. And okay, I've just got to trust it. Well, we say, thy will be done. We pray, we ask, but then we have to say, thy will be done. God knows better. So that's basically the message of that was given to Faustina by Jesus. A message for all of us. So it wasn't a message just for Faustina, obviously. It's always for God's people. So it's a message for every one of us to have that trust in God, that we are heard by him, we are loved by him, we are known by him, he knows our name, he can count every hair on our head. That comes from the gospel. And just resting peacefully as best we can in that knowledge that God loves us.
Thank you, Beverly. That's a good explanation, especially the explanation that you venerate. We venerate or look up to the saints. Then we're not. It's not like we're worshipping them as God.
Absolutely not worship. No, Catholics worship only God, and it is a misunderstanding amongst many, Protestants and non-believers. Yes, it's just venerating. It's just looking up to and asking for their help. Just the same way that young children might pull at their mother's skirt and say, "Mum, will you speak to Dad? Will you tell Dad that I want this or that?" That's what a saints are. That's what our Blessed Mother Mary is. We don't worship Mary either. We can't, of course. She's not God. Oh, and that makes me think of something else. So on the video, that AI voice was talking about Bernadette, and they said that Bernadette created or did a miracle. Well, Bernadette didn't do the miracle. That spring of water, that she had to dig in the ground with her hands, and Our Lady indicated a spot in the grotto where to dig with her hands. Our Lady actually said, wash your face with the water, and of course there was no water there. She's digging with the hands, and the water starts gushing up, and that spring of water still gushes forth today. And but Bernadette didn't do that. She can't do the miracle. The miracles come from God, of course. And Bernadette was just the very humble, extremely humble instrument wanted by God for the good of all people, to help us believe. Yeah.
Can you describe what's the procedure for making somebody a saint? I mean, the Pope's probably.
Yes, I can very poorly. So the procedure's usually extremely very, very long, and it's very difficult to be proclaimed a saint in the Catholic Church. So they form a panel of people, most of whom aren't Catholic, but they have to be professionals in their fields, each in their fields, medical or whatever particular fields, different fields. Theologians also, but scientists, physicians, and they have to. Usually they're not Catholic. There would be some Catholic. The theologians may or may not be Catholic. So it's a very long inquiry and investigation into the person's life. And the process cannot begin until the person has actually died. And when you think of Mother Teresa from Calcutta, during her life, it's acknowledged worldwide that she was an extremely humble, generous, always helping the poorest of the poor. So in that case, there's no doubt really in the minds of the people that she was at least worthy of our admiration. But the church will look into that very, very close into the life of the people. There has to be actually indication from God himself. So there has to be a miracle. So the process can take years, even centuries in some cases. But there has to be a sign from God in the form of a miracle that he is also happy for that person to be declared first a blessed, then a saint. So there has to be one miracle, and then I think for the canonization to become a saint, another 2 miracles. So it's very rare, actually. And you think of Lourdes in France, where people go, millions of people go, Catholics and non-Catholics, to bathe in that water. Very, very few. So millions of people would say that they have received the grace or a grace from Lourdes, a grace of even a healing, or even if it is a healing, the scientists and the panel will look into that, and there might be a human explanation for that healing, So to be a saint, there has to be no explanation at all for a healing. No explanation, no scientific explanation. It has to be a miracle. So millions of people that have been to Lourdes, amongst whom probably millions also say, I've received a grace or I've received a little miracle. But I think a handful have actually been declared miracles, actual miracles in healings from Lourdes. Yeah, it's a very long process. It's not easy to be declared a saint. It's a very serious. They look very seriously into the whole thing, and the miracles have to be unexplainable scientifically and humanly unexplainable before somebody can be canonized.
Thank you, Beverly. All right, some people have their hands up, so we've got half an hour left. So if we could keep it brief and to the point, preferably a question, but certainly an observation if you like. Yong.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Miss Beverly Hill. Thank you for the book about Saint Faustina. The first time I was taken to know about Saint Faustina, it comes from some people in a military academy, the American West Point Military Academy. They sent us some image photo of Jesus and said that I come from Saint Faustina. Jesus, I trust in you. So according to that chaplet of the Divine Mercy, if people pray to the Lord and ask for something, that request will have to be compatible with Jesus' will. And then that's in the diary of Saint Faustina, 1731. You also see chapter or page 1541. So that was the first knowledge. And then second knowledge that we receive, the book that you sent back to us to read more about them. And hopefully by now, we can convert Colin to become Catholic. Hopefully, we cross a finger. And what I see is in the, like so many miracles, but the medical panel had to agree that according to scientists also, they gotta be all agree, and people who believe in mystic all had to be agree that the miracle happened because medical couldn't solve it, and doctor couldn't solve it, scientists couldn't explain why. So the miracle is a miracle. So that is very simple way to explain about miracle and talk about Joan of Arc of French. What I learned is if a woman to be a leader and if they win the battle, it's gonna be okay. But if they fail the battle, anything can happen to that woman. No mercy at all. So therefore, the happening of divine mercy is extremely important. I mean, I don't know how people solve out the problem of the leader that get fell from the revolution. So in the old day, that's how Joan of Arc became a saint by political machine, but not by the Catholic machine. That's why I understood. It's just like a double swords. Double swords that whether you be a saint or you be a fair leader. So that is complex. And talk about Bernadette. You were right that Virgin Mary gave the spring water via teaching Bernadette to dig the soil up, and I got some water from that spring brought back to me from France, and as a gift but I use that water gift to give it to spray on a dying person. It's a gift for me because I want him to have an everlasting life after he died.
Hmm.
So that spring water, the passed from France to me, and I gave it to somebody else.
Hmm.
So finally, you just do miracle for other people.
Yeah.
So we're not supposed to get that miracle to us. We had a pass like they give you a miracle on the left-hand side, you give it out to the right-hand side.
Hmm. I see what you're saying. There's a pass, yeah.
That's like coincidence.
Yeah.
But that's the act of giving. People usually don't say, oh, then I become a saint. No, not like that.
Right.
Because just like in a video movie of Saint Faustina, all the other nuns said, Jesus only talking to the saints. Jesus don't talk to a normal person. That's what all other nuns said. But in real life, you can see God and Virgin Mary talk to Benedict, who is a peasant.
Absolutely.
So peasant and farmer, as long as their heart pure, then they receive message from God. God can talk to them directly, either by verbal talk or by telepathy, communication.
Yeah.
In the brain, through the brain, via the brain.
Yeah.
Thank you. And what do you think, Beverly?
Well, I just wanted to say, yeah, God doesn't. So it's not true that God only talks to the saints. That's not true at all. You think of Saint Paul. Paul was Saul, and he was persecuting the followers of Jesus, right? So he became a saint because he had a conversion, and he worked for Jesus to bring the word to everyone, right? So he was very badly treated. He nearly drowned. He was shipwrecked, I think, twice. He was lashed nearly to death 3 times, something like that. He was stoned. He was nearly killed. He was imprisoned. So he became a saint. So the same with Bernadette. Bernadette was a young child, very sickly, uneducated. She couldn't go to school because she was so sick. I think she was asthmatic. She wasn't a saint. God didn't speak to her through Mary because she was a saint. She became a saint because she lived for Jesus, to bring the word of Jesus to the people. So we, the church, declared her a saint because we look up to her. Any of the saints are like that. Some of the, St. Augustine, the famous Augustine, studied by Christian theologians. He was a what do you call it? He was very a man of the world until he was 33. He was wealthy, he was educated, he loved parties and women and that sort of thing. His mother, Monica, prayed for him, and it was only till when he was 33 that he actually had a conversion, and then he lived for Jesus and to spread for God and to spread the word of God. So he became a saint because we declared him a saint once he died. But they're not saints. Many of them were actually big sinners, great sinners. And I don't know if any of you have heard of Fatima in Portugal, where Our Lady appeared to 3 young
farmers, the 3 children of the farmers.
They were very poor, uneducated, little kids, just living, shepherding the goats or the sheep. Typically, God will appeal to, will talk to, will appear to, will communicate with the very lowly, humble. He loves humility, and
But you never know. There's another theory on that. These 3 young kids, they might already be a saint in their previous life. They come from heaven. They got reincarnated as farmers' children, but they were originally the saints. So now, if Virgin Mary talked to them, she talking to her old saints, to her old angels. If you study Buddhist teaching, Buddhists can tell you the Bodhisattva come back, but they are already Buddha in their previous life. And they come down on earth as a Bodhisattva to Buddha to help other people. And then, all these phenomenon were revealed because the God talking to their old angels, the old Bodhisattva, the old Buddha, the old saints, the old angels. Because they had to run so many lives.
I haven't read Buddha. I don't know very much at all about that. But the Catholic faith, we don't believe in reincarnation. It's not one of the beliefs of the Catholic faith. But I haven't read anything really about Buddha. But the important thing is that it was part of the from the Jewish writing that was read before. It said, act justly, love mercy, and that brings us back to Faustina, and then be humble. And that really is an important thing, like human beings aren't naturally very humble. We tend to be a bit more, we're self-centered, we're born, we're self-centered. But humility is, it's a humility of trusting in God, really. It's like we can only do so much for ourselves, which isn't anything compared to, what we need. We can't save ourselves. We need God. So it's that trust in God, the humility of leaving things to God and trusting Him.
I'm jumping here. I'd like to say to Yong that Colin is already a Catholic. You don't need to convert because a Baha'i has to believe in Christ, Muhammad, and other manifestations.
Thank you, Ahmed. I'll just make sure the Catholic hierarchy agrees with you before I take the next step. Thank you, Jung, for the question. Titi.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I just said about the heroes from the Catholic. They spread the word to the world. That's a good. I think it's a good news for us. Yeah, they spread the word and they show any kind of heroes in the Catholic, and yeah, but there's a little bit question, or maybe just a question from the Bible too. Yeah, just my question is, yeah, just a Catholic is that means gonna dominate the world. Yeah, I think that the Catholic is dominant the world. That means, yeah, I think that's why he showed the world the way any kind of the hero in there. But in 1884, I think that time has he showed the world as the real dominance in 1884. But Matthew 7, sorry, Matthew 7, 22. That the big I'm just my question. It's about a miracle. Yeah. It's okay when I read from here, the Barry.
Do you want me to read Matthew chapter 7, verse 24? Was that the one?
22.
22?
Yep.
Okay, I'll read. There's a paragraph. Well, the section is called A Tree and Its Fruits. And then just reading the verse before. So it's about every good tree bears good fruit. Otherwise it's cut down. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. And in verse 22, many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons and perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers.
So my question was, it's about a miracle. Yeah, it's just I see this verse, and I'm just curious. Yeah, I heard about that the one you mentioned, and I just curious. Oh, that a miracle, and why that they put on the Bible? Why that Jesus said and just Matthew record and just put in the Bible to show any kind of that. Just curious about the miracle that they mentioned about the miracle, that the one the one that's already did in France or any kind of hero. But the good thing, they spread the word to the world. They know the God in the world. But just a miracle. Just I'm curious about the miracle. Why Matthew just recording, just writing the Bible, and then putting, and he mentioned about the miracle. Just I'm curious about. Just sorry, I'm just a little question.
Okay. Look, I don't have a answer. Do you have any thoughts, Beverly, about the importance of miracles?
The importance of miracles. They just help us believe. Help us believe. They're like little, God is a loving Father, and He wants to help us believe. So I know sometimes it can be a bit hard, like someone's has received a miracle, and sometimes we think, oh, well, why not me? Why can't I get my answer? Why can't I have a miracle? That's just part of faith and trust. But miracles are, I think, basically that they're there for us to help us believe that God really is there, that God really does exist. And I apologize to you, Atiti, that I didn't quite understand something about Matthew. I'm sorry, you read Matthew, Colin. What was the?
Yeah, look, Atiti, the connection wasn't that good, and I could only pick up 10%. But I think possibly you're asking, why does that verse in the Bible seem to downplay miracles? Is that what you're asking? Why that verse?
Yeah. I'm just curious. Sorry, that you mentioned about any. So I mean, you mentioned any those heroes they saw the miracles in. Yeah.
I think so. I think it's referring to. I think it's referring to the people who was it? I wasn't listening properly, Colin, when you read. But someone who couldn't do the miracles. What? Do you mind reading that couple of lines again?
Yeah, 7 Matthew 7. Yeah, it was so. It says, many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons and perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. So I guess that's.
So that's referring to. We'll say the people who they're not sincere. So he's talking to people who are not sincere. So they're jumping on the bandwagon of doing miracles, healing, but they're not doing it. They're doing it for themselves. They're not really doing it in the name of Jesus, and they don't love or say God. Sorry, we're not doing it in the name of God. They don't love God. They love themselves, and they're doing it for themselves. So I think you'd have to read
The context.
The context and maybe a bit longer.
Yeah, the context is. He says, "Watch out for false prophets," and he says, "You know a prophet by its fruits." In other words, it's the good things it produces, not by making claims.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, false prophets. It is directed at false prophets, that word of Jesus there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, thank you, Titi. Ahmed, I lost my place in the queue because I spoke. That's just how Zoom works, but I'm going to reclaim it. Jung mentioned Saint Joan of Arc, and I don't know her story at all, but I did pick up that she could have saved her life if she denied her belief, and yet she didn't. She
was a martyr. Yes, that's right.
she was a martyr.
Deny her belief in God, her belief in Jesus, and so she was killed. She's a heroine. She's a French heroine. They revere her, and at the time, she was killed. That's one of the. Well, there's a saying in the Catholic faith that the seed of martyrs is what produces. The seed will grow. One little seed of wheat will produce many seeds of wheat on the grain. And so the blood of martyrs is a seed that will flourish will harvest many more. All of Jesus's apostles, bar John, were martyrs, died as martyrs. And one would argue that John died a martyr as well, though it was a bloodless martyrdom. He lived to be well into his 90s. And that would have been a martyrdom for him because he was the youngest. He had a tremendous desire to be with Jesus, and he would have happily died, as one of the first if he could have. But God wanted him to live well into the 90s. He wrote his gospel was one of the last ones written. I believe he wrote it when he was in his 70s or 80s. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Beverly. Ahmed.
Yeah, it was nice to see that video about the saints. But when you look at the history of all different religions, you will see that there's a few people like those saints in those religions. I mean, in Islam, there is the same thing. In Judaism, we have people who are pure and saintly. And then even in Baha'i faith, we have many people that are very pure. They were saints, they were martyrs, and passed away. And Baha'u'llah gives them an appellation of the conquest on high. And I think these are the people that help us, that help humanity. And obviously in Christianity, they're all called saints. So it's not strange to me that we have these people because they're pure and holy in their lives.
Yes, that's true. It's recognized that there would be many more saints, non-canonized saints, because they're good people who live their lives very well and wanting to help others, but they just don't get canonized. They're hidden, but they're not hidden to God.
Yeah, when we look at the early history of, for example, Babi and Baha'i faith, we see people that arose, left their families, and went around teaching, and then even martyred. Odus was one of them, for example, if you have read about him, or Tahere, the lady that raised her veil off, and was phenomenal at the time. And then we have many Americans, Australians that travel to teach the faith. Martha Rood is one of them in Baha'i faith. But I think these are holy spirits, holy people that have a holy life in this physical world, and when they pass, obviously are recognized.
Yeah, I think the important thing is that knowing that they are recognized by God. God knows it, and God loves them. And some, only some, are put on a pedestal, canonized and called saints. And that's for our good, you know, it's for us, it's to help us. So everything that God does is out of love for us and to give us a helping hand, to help us believe. And but there are many, many people known by God for the goodness that they do, the way they live, the way they love God, the way they love God by helping others. Yeah, definitely. They will be very much celebrated in heaven.
Thank you for the question, Ahmed. Before I go to Tracy, I might just point out that so Beverly, you go to the Catholic Church in Parkes. I used to go to the Catholic convent next door to the church, and my
to learn music, was it?
what's that?
That where you learnt music?
Yeah, I had 4 years piano and 3 years violin with Sister Mary Michael, who, when I didn't practice, she would tell me I would try the patience of a saint. But I like to think that I was helping her become a saint because she was a lovely person.
You see, I told you Colin is already a Catholic.
All right, Tracy.
I was just wanted to mention that that quote from Matthew, that our sincerely seeking God is very important. That God wants us to value our relationship with God, not just the good things that God can do for us, but that we value that relationship. That's sort of, you know, seeking to know sincerely God in a more and more each day, you know, is. But also Australia has a saint, Mary MacKillop. I just wanted to
Yes,
give
another extraordinary person, very humble person. An extraordinary, the work she did for the children, opening schools for the bush children, so they could have an education. Yeah, really extraordinary. She stood up to bishops to do what she did. Yeah. So that's a good female, our own Australian saint. Yeah, Mary MacKillop.
And there's still nuns carrying on her work, but there's less and less nuns, but it's still that sort of the spirit of caring for the underdog and fighting the establishment to, you know, practice mercy is a good example. I just wanted to give Mary a sort of a plug.
Well done.
Thank you, Tracy. Yeah, and I know she was excommunicated because she was quite a challenge, and then they recognised that they had someone special.
Was it because she's Irish? She was Irish, was she? I think her parents came out here when she was little, I think from Ireland. Yeah.
Right. Sarah, did you have your hand up?
Can I say something here Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, did we I don't know whether it was touched on whether saints are considered humans or are they considered divinely, do you know what I mean? Are they on the same realm as a manifestation or a prophet? So I mean, as humans, you know, our purpose is to kind of you know, the God has manifestations that bring a message, and you know, with this light we're meant to polish our mirrors to be able to reflect the light. So do we consider saints as humans that have just polished their mirrors very well and become a very perfect receptacle to receive the light, and then what they do with that light? Or are we saying that saints are more on the divine realm?
No, they're totally human. They're absolutely human. They're not angelic. They're as you said, yeah, I guess that's the way of putting it. They've polished their lives very well so that people can see God in them. Yeah. So they've they become like a light, but they are human. They're not divine. They're human. They're people who fall in love with God and work for the coming of God's kingdom and for the love of the people, for the love of, the brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Can I share? Can you see on the screen there?
Yeah.
So this gives a few different aspects of sainthood. I hope there's no echo. Anyway, so the term saint often used to describe a person of exceptional holiness, formally recognized by the Christian Church, especially by canonized.
My computer just died, so don't worry about my explanation. I'm going to ask the next person in the queue to speak while I get my computer started. Maybe. Well, the point I was going to make is that that article says that St. Paul addressed his letters to the second letter to Corinthians to the saints in that area. So there's another use of the word saints as people who are still alive but are perhaps sanctified by becoming Christians.
He was referring to those who had chosen to follow Jesus. Jesus was a Jew. All the apostles were Jews. Paul was I think his mother was Jewish, but his father was Roman. That's why he could appeal to Rome. He could claim his Roman citizenship. But so when he's talking to the saints, he's talking to the people who had joined the Christian movement. So it was later on at Antioch, I think, that they were first called Christians, followers of Christ. But that's what he means. He's calling them saints, yeah.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment here, actually. I'm wondering whether, you see, in Baha'i faith, Baha'u'llah says that the deeds are so important and miracles are only valid for the person that has done that visitation, that seen that miracle. So the thing is that the deeds of these people are much important. They being pure soul and acting purely in the life, I think are more important than having a miracle.
Thank you, Ahmed. And perhaps another kind of miracle is that we get transformed by the Word of God. That's a miracle accessible to all of us.
I think it's more important that people perceive you as a saint. Because like a saint, they can do 100,000 things. But if people don't see that person as a saint, then she or he not a saint. But some other people might do less job than that, not virtual, not heroic, nothing. But if people perceive that person is a saint, then that person is a saint.
Yeah, well, I guess that's one of Jesus's parables was about the tree, being able to judge a tree by its fruit. So that's true, yeah. The fruit has to be good for the tree to be good, right? So it is by the way we live. Well, actually, it says in the Bible, by the way you love. I think that's in one of the Gospels. It's by the way you love that people know. And that's talking about the Christians as a whole. It's the way we love that people notice and be attracted to that love and want to know more about it. Yeah. Can't hear Colin.
Okay. Colin, you have to talk in the corner of the microphone, otherwise we can't hear you.
1, 2, 3. Is that good?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to say that was a wonderful point. Maybe a good point to finish the way we love. But I also wanted to put in a word for my favorite Catholic saint, which is Saint Therese of Lisieux, and her book, The Story of a Soul, is very readable and very touching and very down to earth. All right.
Yes, she's my patron. She's my patron saint.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all Century the Roses.
So is your second name Therese?
Christian name.
The patron is
Oh,
Therese.
Christian name.
Therese.
Patron saint.
Therese.
Okay.
Yeah, Therese the Roses.
With you, yeah.
Can I add something here that Beverly is right that these people that are pure and become martyrs, their blood flourishes that tree of the faith in other people.
Yeah.
In every faith, you can see that. In every religion.
Can I just add to what Beverly said, because it's a beautiful thing. It's the way you love, which most people think love is like just more of a passive state, but here the saints, it's an active state through the service they perform. And also I think the way they love, their love for God in the fact that they can actually make it their life, they sacrifice their life for their love for their faith or for God, and serve humanity with that love. If that makes sense.
No, because love is blind.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm the MC, but I can't mute Jung without muting myself. So
no. I think it was a good point you made.
All right, I'm going to take this opportunity to thank Beverly for sharing tonight, and thank everybody for participating. It was a very nice discussion.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Maria, thank you.
Everybody. Thank you. Bye. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
How was your surgery for Santha? It's okay, but it's a bit painful, but I just came back home. Yeah. They said it went okay. Thank you. You're really committed to come in after the surgery. God bless you.